Enforcing the contract. Again, only the parties to a contract can enforce it. So the management agreement is only enforceable between the client and the managing agent, not the individual leaseholders. So if the management agreement says the managing agent will turn up once a week, and the managing agent doesn't turn up once a week, and the leaseholders know the managing agent isn't turning up once a week, all you can do is bring that to the attention of the person that's employed the managing agent and say, they're in breach of contract, can you do something about it, please? The lease is enforceable by the client and the leaseholders, so not the managing agent. So if I am appointed by an RTMco and one of your leaseholders doesn't pay their service charges, it's not me that sues them, it's the RTMco. Now, the reality is I will do that on their behalf, but the people that have to sign the claim form are the right to management company, not the managing agent. The Men's and Arts enforceable by the company and its shareholders, and the service contracts enforceable by the client and the contractor. How do you enforce a contract? Persuasion, aggression, conflict, threat, solicitors? All of the above. Probably, in order to answer that question, you need to go on to the next one. Be clear in your objectives. What is it you're trying to achieve? And very often, you will find talking to people and persuading people down a route is actually much better than a legal remedy. It's possibly more powerful and more likely to succeed if there's a potential legal remedy sitting behind that discussion. But what you'll find is most freeholders, most landlords want an easy life. And actually badger them a bit, say to them, we want a different managing agent, we've been out, we found one who we think we can work with, please would you sack these other people and appoint these people for us? It's very much worth having that discussion before you go down a legal route, because on the whole, in my experience, that will possibly be successful. Any recourse to law is going to cost you money, and you've got to weigh up the cost versus the benefits. What is it you're trying to achieve, and how much is it going to cost you to achieve that? I was reading something the other day about little people but taking on big corporations, and it was about the person that took on Hoover over their free flights offer 20 years ago, and they spent £250,000 to get their free flights.
They could have bought the company.
Their flights probably cost them £100. Would it not have been better to go out and buy their own flights and spend £250,000 to get their £100 flights? So again, it's just about trying to work out what are you trying to achieve. Is it worth spending the money that you're going to have to spend in order to have that recourse to law? And I appreciate we're stood here in a solicitor's office today, so I'm not telling you not to use solicitors, but I'm just telling you to think it through before you do. Be clear in your objectives and look for an efficient route. Consider the long-term relationship. Very often, what you won't be looking to achieve by a legal recourse is the parting of the ways. You're still going to have to work with these people after the event. And is what you're proposing to do going to make that easier or harder? Alternative dispute resolution. It's absolutely flavour of the month, and probably quite rightly so, but mediation, adjudication, is that worth considering before taking legal action? It may well be that actually having a dialogue with the party you're in dispute with can resolve that, and it might well be that you need a third party to help facilitate that, and mediation can be a low-cost route towards that. Courts, first-tier tribunal, formerly known as the LVT. Again, supposedly a low-cost recourse for leaseholders. Do be careful, because unless you get a Section 20B, a Section 20ZA, no, I've got the wrong one, Section 20C, thank you, order, then the costs the landlord incurs in going to the LVT or defending your application can end up hitting your service charge, and if they turn up with 3 big hitting barristers, that might be a lot of money. Remember, a good managing agent will want to work with you to find a mutually agreeable situation. Premier Estates wants happy customers. We don't want to be fighting with you all. We want you to think we're doing a good job. And therefore, if you've got a problem, come and talk to us about it, and we'll try and resolve it. And if we have got something wrong, we will rectify that. And if that means we have to put our hand in our pocket, we do so. Because ultimately, we know that if we've got that wrong, we're not going to be successful if you take us to an LVT. We've got all the time and hassle involved in doing that, and we're only going to have to get our hand in our pocket at the end. So is it not simpler to close that issue down here and now by sorting it? And most good managing agents will take that view. So if you've got an issue, talk to them, and most managing agents will try and find a mutually agreeable solution to whatever the issue might be. The RICS Code of Practice, referred to it briefly before, described it as to leasehold management what the highway code is to driving, and that's exactly right. It's a statutory code, it's backed by legislation, it's approved by the Secretary of State under the Urban Development and Housing something or other Act, and that means that it sets out what a managing agent should do. And there are two important words that flow through the code. One is should, and the other is must. Where the code refers to a statutory obligation, it will say the managing agent must do this. Where it refers to best practice, it will say the managing agent should do this. So the difference between the two is that where it is a must, there is no room for departure from it whatsoever. And if a managing agent is not adhering to a must, then they are acting illegally. Simple as that. Where it's a should, it is best practice, and it means that a managing agent must do it unless they've got a good reason for not doing so. So should doesn't mean a managing agent can just ignore the rule because it's not a must. It means, no, they actually must be behaving that way unless they can really justify why they haven't. And so again, when going through the code, there is possibly a feeling that shoulds are completely worthless. Well, they're not. Shoulds are just as important as the musts. It just means that there is a possible defence for not complying with a should, whereas there isn't a possible defence for not complying with a must. It's an excellent practitioner's guide. Our managers, we've got a dozen copies that float around our office, and it is referred to on, I would suggest, an almost daily basis. One of the reasons for referring to it on an almost daily basis is not that we don't know what it says, but it has very good references to sections of legislation. So it will say that you must produce accounts within, or you must notify leaseholders of expenditure within 18 months, and then in the box at the side, it gives you the piece of legislation that says why you must do that. So it's very helpful to be able to turn to the right legislation. It is easy to understand by those outside the profession, so it's not technical jargon. It's, any one of you could pick up the RICS code and read it and fully understand everything that it's saying, and therefore, to some extent, hold your managing agent to account based on what it says. It is used by the Courts and Tribunal Service. We don't go to the LVT very often, and when we do go to the LVT, it's only because we've instigated it rather than someone's had a go at us. Normally we've sued someone for service charge arrears and they've defended it, and we end up at the LVT. But if we ever do end up at the LVT, the first thing I do is get my copy of the RICS code out and put it on the table. And because the LVT, one of the first things, that is how they are judging the managing agent's performance. Are they adhering to the RICS code? And so I find it really useful for the LVT panel to see that I've got a copy and that I brought it with me, and therefore I know what it says. It's readily available through the RICS. I can't remember what the RICS website is, but if you typed RICS into Google, you would come across the RICS website, and you can buy a copy of the RICS code off their website. I think it's about £20, and it's, as I say, it's readily available. Good managing agents will follow the RICS code. All managing agents should follow the RICS code. So whether they're a member of RICS, a member of ARMA, a member of no one, The RICS code applies to anyone involved in service charge management. And so if your managing agent is not a member of any professional body, it's still worth reading the RICS code and judging their performance against it. Although I've just said it's readily available and you can buy it from RICS books, I would hold off doing so because it's currently being revised. We're on the second revision, which was introduced as a result of the Commonwealth and Leasehold Reform Act in 2002, and the third edition is in draft form and is currently being consulted upon. In my opinion, it's rubbish. It's not a patch on the second edition, and the reason being that the Department of Communities and Local Government, who are in charge of the approval of the RICS code, have decided that it needs completely rewriting to be consumer friendly. Well, I think the current edition is consumer friendly, and the third edition, in order to make it consumer friendly, has lost lots of stuff in waffle. It's been written in sort of really soft language that apparently is going to be really helpful to consumers, but actually means it's no longer punchy and people can follow it. But we have made those comments to RICS, and we will see whether or not they take them on board and change it to address that.